All right, we're back with lesson number 3, carving this Santa Claus ornament here. Follow along with us. We left off, we've got the hat rounded. We haven't put in the little fold over. I did go find out this is called the brim, this is called the ball, just so you know. We're gonna draw back in our center line. I'm gonna start to shape out this nose and get these eye sockets where we need them to go. So we'll start with putting my glove on. That would be embarrassing if I cut myself while y'all's watching. I'd have to throw that video away and start all over. Not that none of us cut ourselves. I want to start getting these eye sockets, and I want to kind of sink them back in there quite a bit because I want the nose to stick out farther than the face and I want the beard to come out. So I'm just going to take this is the number 11 Stu-by gouge. I like it because it's heavy duty and it'll take off a lot of wood without a lot of, and I say that and then I have to wiggle to get it out of there. Anyway, we're just going to kind of scoop out those eye sockets. Don't want them to go real deep, but I am going to push them back quite a bit. I'm going to switch to a little bit littler one. I know that I've honed this one just recently, so it should be in better shape. Right now, I'm just trying to get the eye socket in there. And we're going to make it go back quite a bit because what we want is to be able to put those eyes back there and give us some room for the eyebrows up here. And we also want to arch these eyebrows, kind of almost like he's smiling and his eyebrows are going up. Got that center line where we need to go. And now what I'm going to do is going to go right up the side of that nose with a smaller gouge. And I'm just going to, like I say, I'm carving in a different position than I normally do because I'm doing it so you can see it with the camera. Normally I put it down in my lap and you get the shoulders and you get a little bit of gravity working on it. But anyway, I just want to go right up the side of that nose, and I want to establish where the bridge of the nose is, and I want to establish the shape of the nose as well. So I'm just going up here, and all I'm doing is trying to deepen that eye socket. You see that it's getting deeper in there, and I want to round it because this essentially should be rounded from the tear duct in here to the outside of the eye. Tear duct in here outside the eye. We've got some rounding we've got to take in there, but understand that all this is a good portion of this is going to be the eyebrows. Excuse me. And so I want to make sure that I'm getting deep enough in there that I'm shaping that nose the way I want, and then I'm getting into that eye socket, which is actually deeper toward the inside than it is toward the outside. So I just want to make sure I'm just removing some wood in that area for that. And so as you can see, I got some eye sockets, and they're not real big, and they don't need to be real big because somewhere out here I'm going to draw in. If this is going to be my beard, then here's the sideburn coming down, and I generally don't carve these with ears because the ear would really be way back here, so I don't bother with that. I'm going to give the sideburn like that. I'm actually going to curve it a little bit more. We'll get to that in a little bit. But you can see where the cheeks are going to come around. They're going to come somewhere down here and somewhere around here. So I didn't worry about exactness on there. And if you notice, you can see this is a little bit lower than that one. I'll fix that a little bit later. But I just want to know where everything is going to go. So I want to start separating this nose because on the plane of a face, the nose is the part that sticks out the farthest. And so when you go to carve these guys, make sure that nose is sticking out. Now, if you want a big full beard, maybe that beard will come out a little bit too. Make sure you leave a little bit of room for that. But I like to set that nose deep into the face so that you can understand where it's at and understand what it looks like. So I'm going to draw my lines that I've kind of erased off of there. And I want to make sure, I'm actually going to make sure this nose comes out a little bit bigger. I want him to have a wider, fatter, more fleshy nose. And so if I put that in there, flatten it off at the bottom, you can see where I'm going to go. At this point, I'm going to Now, and here's the question. I said I was going to switch to a knife, but here's the question. I see a lot of people, they'll want to get these noses in there, and they will grab, where's my big, they'll grab something like this, or maybe a little bit smaller, something like this, and they'll poke that into the nose and to set out those labrium or nose wings. I think these are called labrium. I may be wrong. I'm not a biology teacher. But they'll poke that in there and separate that out because they'll carve out this way and it'll make the nose a little bit wider and then come back in and carve in. I think that's a good look for some carvers. I don't know that I'm comfortable with it because I'm not real good at doing that. And so rather than taking my gouge and putting that right in there, it looks like it almost fits, but when you do this, you have to line up both sides exactly right. So if you do this, it's easier to do the upside down one first, because that way when you're looking at it, you'll see that bottom line right there. Then when you flip it over, you'll be able to see where that bottom line is and you'll know to put that other wing right in there. I don't prefer to do it that way. I take a smaller, skinny, sharper knife. This is my Helvy Detail. It's a 1-inch knife, I think. 1 1/4 maybe. It's a 1-inch. I like this one because it's detailed. And looky here, this is what I like about it. Look at the flex on that. I've only had one other knife that did that much flex, and that was I've got a Drake in here. That one flexes the same way. That's very important when you're doing these faces, because when you want to make sure your knife flexes in the right spot and not in the wrong spot. Because in the wrong spot, you'll poke out some wood. Excuse me. All right, I'm going to lay my knife right along. See how that flat end right there? I'm going to lay that knife right in there, and I'm going to carve away from the nose. And I don't want to go real deep. I'm only going in about 1/4 inch. And I'm carving that edge of that wing of the nose. I'm going to do the same thing over here, except I'm going to go upside down. So I know from where I made my cuts, or made my marks, that this is about out here. And now I'm going to remove that wood on the outside of it. And if you need to do this in 2 or 3 cuts, there's nothing wrong with that. You need to do it for yourself. I'm showing you how I do it. You do it for yourself. Comes all the way up to that wing of the nose. And we've cut that wood in and sort of separated the nose from the cheek. Okay, didn't do it here at the bottom. Now I will. See how we started separating that nose? We'll shape that cheek because we've got to come down here and we've got to shape the cheek where the mustache is going to be. Let's do this other side. Take a little bit more off because I did get enough out of there to separate it completely. And so now I got that nose sort of shaped in. It's real flat on the bottom, and that's okay. It's going to depend on what kind of nose you want. You want a flat bottom nose that's rounded up here. You want a rounded nose that's sort of flattens up here. It's entirely up to you. But anyway, we've kind of shaped a little bit of that eye socket, and we've separated out the nose from the rest of the face. Now, if you want to come in here with a big gouge like this and you want to give it that deep cheek look, that's entirely up to you. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just showing you what I'm doing. So you, again, this is your carving to follow along with me and see what I'm doing. You do whatever you think you need to. Generally, what I do next is I shape the rest of the face. The beard is going to be a fun thing to do later because you'll just get to be all random and all whatever you want. But we're going to shape this beard, at least the beard line. Now, ordinarily, when you look at faces, somewhere up here at the top of the nose wing, you have a smile line that comes down here somewhat like that, depending on what the face is doing. If it's smiling, it may be ticked up a little bit, and if it's frowning, it may be down. And so on these, we're not going to put that in simply because we don't need to. Well, you could, And maybe we will. Who knows? We'll see where we go when we get there. But right now, I just want to outline where the cheek is going to come in. And I best change that now. Where the cheek is going to come in, we want to leave that. And I have a pair of markers somewhere. Oh, there they are. A pair of dividers. Sorry. If you're worried about making sure you want to keep these sides of the face the same size, get you a pair of these little dividers. They're little measuring tools that you can screw in. You can measure from the eye socket to the outside of. If you want to put, let's say we put our eye socket right in here. I'll draw a little dot in there on both sides for the eye socket. Let's say that's where the tear duct is. If you want to make sure that the face is the same size from there to the outside of the cheek where the temple is, just get you one of these little tools and measure that. And you'll be able to see if you're following true to symmetry. Again, this is a caricature carving, and you get to play around with symmetry the way you want. You get to do what you want to with it, to a degree. If you have one ear higher than the other, even though they may be the same size, that ain't right. Unless that's what you're trying to do. Anyway, what we're trying to do is make sure that this, from the hairline over to the eyebrow, to the tear duct, is the same on both sides. And if you can see, looky there. Right here, we're this wide, and over here, we're that wide. So if I were to cut this line in where it is, I'm in trouble. Now, this may be for a particular reason. We got to look in here to make sure that the depth is the same. Let's go back and double check. We'll get just a little bit more deep in there. Maybe that's part of it. And use those dividers sparingly because you don't want to be a slave to measurements. You want to be a slave to creativity, and that is entirely up to you. And so now, if you'll notice, that first dot I had was closer in than that other one, and so this dot that I just put in is closer. So now when we go to measure that one, we're a little bit closer. And so now what I'm going to do is measure from the outside as well. And that looks about right. So in where I've got this in relationship to where I have that, I think this is going to be okay. And I'm going to do it with, what I'm going to do is outline it with a small V tool. There we go. A small V tool. Got a little Drake. I swear I don't know what angle that is. If you can see the angle. Anyway, got a Drake V tool. And what I'm going to do is just outline that. Let me put my glove back on. Sometimes I have to take it off so I can handle things. Other times I forget and leave it off. I don't want to do that to you. I'm going to start right out here, and I'm just going to follow right up and right up that line, and I'm just outlining. I'm not getting very deep. You see, I took just a little bitty sliver out of there. I don't want to get real deep because if this ends up looking bad, because this one's too far out, then I don't know that I want to do that. Again, we should be somewhere right around in here if our eye holes are about the same. So let me follow just inside of that. I won't follow outside that line. I'll come in a little bit because I'm changing as we go along. And look at that, and that looks pretty close. Let me follow those two lines over, get my thumb guard in. Let me follow those two lines over to the nose and bring it up. Do the same thing here. Over and bring it up. Okay, so now I kind of have the facial structure down. At this point is when I start taking off a little bit more wood around the nose because I want the nose separated from the face just a little bit. I want it to stand out because I'm going to come back in and I'm going to take some of that nose off. And what I don't want is to leave take off too much wood so that when I do take off the nose, it looks flat against the face. That's not the way we're headed. We don't want flat. I see too many carvings. I looked at my past carvings in my carving career, and I see too many flat carvings. And I just think, okay, you know what I did? I rounded a little bit and then started putting on details because I thought I need to put details on now. And what it was is I didn't get the full anatomy structure out that I wanted. So I've separated that nose out a little bit. We're going to move the eye sockets back even more a little bit later. Not worried about that right now. Just trying to get the placement. So you can see we've got a little bit more separation between the cheek and the nose here, and a little more separation between the cheek and the nose here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to follow these lines up here. Here's where you have a design question. You have to answer this question for yourself. Are the cheeks going to be higher out than the beard, or the beard going to be higher out than the cheeks? Here's one that I'm still working on, in which it's a little bit of combination of both. The beard comes out a little bit, but the cheeks are rounded a little bit. See if we can find one. I don't know that I've got one with the cheeks. All of mine, the cheeks are sticking out farther from the face than the beard. So I don't know that I've got any of those. Started going over here in the closet and digging around with one that's already been painted. But you get the design whether you want the cheeks to poke out and the beard to be recessed behind that, or whether you want the beard to be the main focus of what you're carving. Because if that's it, if that's what you're doing, then this beard is the big thing. You're going to add all kinds of curly cues and wiggles and all kinds of stuff to that to make it look good. That's where you have the question. But anyway, I'm going to follow that line because I like where it's at, and I'm going to go right in that groove. I've got my flexible Helvey 1-inch slimline handle, and I'm just going to go in and just in that groove. And so now here's what I've got to figure out. I got to figure out whether I want this to stick up, or this to stick out, or this to go back. I always take a gouge and follow this line out the eye socket all the way out past the temple. Those of you that wear glasses, you know what I'm talking about, because this temple mound right here is where your glasses go. They go right in that groove that goes all the way back through your forehead. And so I'm going to just follow that all the way out to the edge, just so I get a little bit of shape to that face. Because what we're looking at when we're doing a face, we have to look at what's the shape of a face. In reality, for most human faces, you've got a pointed chin, and you've got cheekbones, and then for most of us, our forehead goes in a little bit. And so it almost looks like if you've got hair here, eyebrows here, nose here, and a smile somewhere here where this follows out, you get a little bit of a, I think my friend Gene calls it zygomatic arch. Zygomatic arch is the shape of your face where the temple is. Your eye socket falls all the way around, and then the head goes up, and you got the rest of the face. I'm not a very good drawer. I'll be the first one to tell you. I mean, I can approximate a few drawings, but I'm not an artist in terms of the drawing. So now here you have to determine what you're going to do. And so from that point on, I've cut these in. The first thing I'm going to do is right out here, I'm going to take out a little scoop to give it that zygomatic arch that you see right there. Getting off camera, I apologize. Do that again on the other side, right below it and right above it. There's that zygomatic arch that we're talking about. We'll deepen that a little bit because the eyes are going to go back a little bit more. Because I really want this nose to stick out. We're at 19 minutes. I told you I was going to keep these to around 20, see how well they load up. But we're at 19 minutes, and we've kind of shaped the face. We're going to come back and we're going to start working on that nose and those eyes, because that's going to be the main thing that you look at. It's the big white beard that you know is Santa, but it's also the eyes and the nose that tell you it's Santa as well. So we'll stop right here on lesson 3. We'll pick it up again on lesson 4. Talk to you later. Thanks for following on.